Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? Cool. It's a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank Julia Bini, Sabia Keefe, Daria Mill, and Philip Ziegler, curators at ZKM. So, yes, I'm an artist, and as you are, I'm interested in what's new. I assume that I use to call art what you generally will define as unconventional practices, but the meaning may actually be the same. As you can already notice from my accent, I'm Italian, and as many Italian kids, my dream was to become a professional football player, but the problem was I was too fat. Well, not that now I'm pretending I'm skinny, but let's say I was fatter than now. So anyhow, I played football for almost 11 years, and since I was slow, if compared to my peers, I had a specific need to forecast where and when the ball was going to bounce in order to run and get the ball. So today I call myself an artist because I'm still forecasting when and where the ball is going to bounce. Of course, when we talk about innovation, we think about forgetting the ball and getting on with the game. Please note, for innovation, I mean making this world a better place for as many people as possible, and doing that while acknowledging our human imperfection. So, when we think about innovation, we think about designing new rules with, like the fellow gamers, rules that can be commonly understood and put into practice. Language is not only one of the games we play, it's one of the bigger games we have in common with other human beings. The problem today is that it seems that language can no longer accomplish precisely that purpose for which alone it exists, to enable suffering people to understand one another's most basic trouble. So most of the time, unconsciously, I found a possible solution to this sort of like deterioration of meanings around the creation of new words, namely neologisms, whose greatest ambition is to be credible for the glimpse of an instant and then to probably evaporate. Of course, and conversely, a neologism may actually crystallize, could come to be part of a common usage, and ultimately, a neologism can introduce a debate in current society, a debate set up with its own very existence. A neologism in its pure state is something for which you can't find an explanation on Google yet. So it's up to you to make sense of it, deducing yet elaborating on a possible meaning. So the absence of a ready-made explanation or meaning is always the key element of innovative practices. But it seems to me we tend to forget that. So basically, it seems to me we just look for easy, fast, free solutions. And if we are not sure about something, we go and ask Google. So, friendly reminder here, Google is primarily an advertising company. Every explanation we can find there, it will serve a specific purpose. Of course, I also use Google, and I'm not against that. Actually, my email is Gmail. I'm against the idea that an advertising company has become the source of all meanings. So I get back in the past and I give you a super short example of what I'm meaning. Already in the 60s, the spread of new technological household appliances promised to free women from the daily housework. But at the same time, it gave to women a new status as consumer, and it reinforced a specific role of women within the family and therefore within society. So when we talk about technology, I think that to acknowledge the human struggle is the real current struggle. This is the first neologism of today. It's written like that, but you can imagine to pronounce it as you want. As you see, in order to function properly, a neologism must defer to something already known that exists in the dictionary and must be also able to propose a previously unforeseen possibility or desire. The more the desire will pertain to something we have in common as human beings, and the more it will succeed in defining a new meaning. So another definition of the neologism can also be to give a new name to something that had always existed. In fact, a neologism may be understood as a suggestion, an impartial advice, or a reminder. So to say, a neologism can offer an alternative interpretation of the wonderful and miserable default operation we used to call life. Assuming that another world is not possible, there are infinite ways to inhabit this world. To give a new name to something that had always existed means also to offer an alternative view of the current reality. Now, I understand if some of you are a bit suspicious or skeptical about an artist talking of something that had always existed, meaning that it may sound not that progressive. The point is that since, as I told you, I'm interested in what's new, I need to first consider what is changing and what's not. So I would like to start from something that I feel it's not changing. Every one of us here is committed to enlarge a minority to which one feels to belong to. I want to find like-minded people, I want to share my vision with them, or let's talk on a business level, the more people will empathize with us, the more we will sell. You agree with me that's something that had always existed? I think so, yeah, you agree with me. So conversely, something that didn't always existed is that today, the symbolic value of the product and not its exchange value is the main source of profit. Therefore, the symbolic value is not something only related to art anymore, but to every single existing product. The more language is dominated by the predominance of the symbolic value, and the more language can be used to compose universal abstractions, in English, of course. I feel that's exactly the reason behind the fact that we get increasingly used to empty catchphrases designed to create results. I feel that this is the affirmation of the fact that any type of abstraction can be experienced as the originally parliamentary abstraction, namely the concept of representation within a democratic state. And of course, technology is hugely implicated in this process of abstraction. Think about the fact that with digitalization, almost every tool that surrounded us were dematerialized. Easy example, a map is no more on paper because we have Google Map app on our smartphones. And of course, we also have tools that are born digital to keep being relevant, and that's a structural point. And to add symbolic value, each tool has turned into the narration of itself. So in order to keep up with its inherent narration, every tool needs us, digital interacting human being. And I call this PowerPointization, or I pronounce it like this, but you can pronounce it as you want. So the total PowerPointization of any discourse between human beings is the narration that a technological device offers of itself. PowerPointization also means that it is no more possible to interact without the presence of technological devices. So like the most simple example, let's assume I'm talking to you about my holidays, and rather than selecting the right specific words, I will go like this. I was here and there and so on. So this gesture, it's like the key element of what I would like to define PowerPointization. I'm basically interested here in researching how the daily use of smartphones could affect the role of the human body as interface within the constructed environment and therefore the society. And this is the title under which I'm developing a new body of works. I called phenomenology a current term in phenomenology, which is, to make it simple, the science which studies our perception of the surrounding space through our five senses. I'm basically inverted the first O with the first he, so from phenomenology to phenomenology. Now, it seems to me that we tend to misunderstand the interface customization, namely which app to download on our smartphone, with our role within society. So I download on my phone all the apps I need, and I do that according to who I am. But those apps are not ensuring any specific function within society. So to say, the fact that I have Google Map app on my phone doesn't mean I have more time to travel. Actually, I feel I have less time to travel. And explain what I mean with the next wordplay. I think that the military wing of the digital revolution was the transformation of every room into an office. In short, the complete officialization of the indoor. So, if every room is an office, then every room is the perfect place for working. If every room is the perfect place for working, every aspect of life is productive. If every aspect of life is productive, we will work the whole life. And the interesting thing is that there is someone calling this sharing economy, and it came for free. So, talking about indoor officialization, have a look. So you know you place your doormat outside, like the Fußbettreter, outside of your door to clean your shoes before getting home. So when I think to this daily gesture, I see that being a paradigm or the perfect description for a contemporary social and political issue, namely the growing public loss in favor of private gain. I imagined an utopian society in which what we have in common is more important than what we have as individuals. In that society, people will use indoor mats. So the indoor mats will be placed inside the house to clean your shoes before getting out. And as I told you, it's an utopian view, but thanks to the neologism, I can materialize it in an instant, like the following idea. That's something I invented for empowering my students to make it quick. No matter if someone already had the same idea you had, no matter if CocaCola has been invented already, don't be pessimistic. You can make a better version of CocaCola. You can make a better version of it. So pay attention to your competitors. Study them in full details. Or, why do you call them competitors? What if your competitors are just fellow travelers? What if you start to watch your competitors as like-minded people? Can you empathize with your competitors? Are they trying to achieve the same thing you're trying to achieve? Can competition be transformed into coalition? I'm particularly interested in that, and I'm asking that because a general counter effect of competition is violence. And recently, for example, a new definition entered the common language of daily news, like sort of everyday, foreign fighters. So, as the use of foreign fighters has become increasingly pervasive, I began to wonder what motivated and what drives some of my peers, born to migrant parents in the suburbs of European cities, to travel to the land of their ancestors in order to receive military training. I wonder in particular if one can feel regret for something that one has never really lived, one never had direct experience of it in the sensible world. Or, to put it simply, can one make a return trip in total absence of a round trip? And I called this feeling nostalgia, a specific kind of homesickness whose sense of pain is similar to that caused by the feeling of envy rather than nostalgia. A feeling of lack, self-translated as loss, whose direct reference is experienced by others. The others, specifically in regard to foreign fighters, are often family members, or at least someone or something one can easily identify as a starting point, a seed, a root. So a reminder here, there is only one credible starting point for every human being. We all came from Africa, if you forget that. So nostalgic human beings are not just foreign fighters, are those who have the desire to live experience they have previously understood as plausible experiences. But instead of recalling those experiences from their own past, they substitute the experiences with an immersive navigation experience offered by the web. And they embrace it again and again with a single click. One could say that this is the purpose of marketing practices. Namely, to create a new desire means to induce a person to perceive an absence in order to satisfy the absence with a product. Remember, Google is an advertising company. From this point of view, and it's sad, I don't want to trust what I'm saying, but from this point of view, the internet is nothing but the amplifier technology of the role played by television in the last century. The structural difference between internet and the television stays in the amount of exposure of humans to data, and rather than the actual data resolution, the context within which the data have been produced. I'm thinking of social media contents. Our mind seems induced to process event offered by the screens of portable devices as life lived, and in doing so, to oust the body from the possibility of performing regular rounds of sensory inspections. Nostalgia can therefore be defined as augmented nostalgia. In other words, the past sounds safe, even when it's not, while the future is risky, especially when it seems safe. So my question is, does any past we have not been able to biologically experience look appropriate to a present that actually calls for something else? In other words, do you feel is enough what we are doing in the present? Talking about a current, very urgent issue. Of course, it's great the fact that we collect our unused garments in order to offer them to those who are in real need, like refugees are. But as it's evident, charity is not enough. Actually, I propose to ban charity from the dictionary because charity sounds like the perfect alibi for pretending to matter without changing our lifestyle. Of course, a lecture on neologism is also the perfect alibi for pretending that if we change the language, we also change the concepts and ideas to which the words are linked to. And that was my conclusion. But of course, look carefully, because my conclusion is always the illusion to actually be able to conclude something. And I leave you with the next neologism, which I like to see as a closing open questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Riccardo, for that challenging and creative look at the very concept of newness.